Look at this man now. One of you is sitting in an office or a living room, watching videos on a screen while comfortably sipping some beverage. The other one is sitting on a stone stool 2,000 years ago, listening intently to a stranger speaking about how he has failed in life so far and needs help getting back on track. That man was Socrates, the father of Western philosophy who changed the world by asking questions instead of providing answers. And you, dear fellow scholar, can change your world too. For everything that this man said and taught is now available for us to read in books like this one. But we are not here to read about his life. We are here to learn about what he taught. So let's do it. Welcome to the first episode of Philosophy in Minutes. What's the first thing you would talk about if you had the chance to speak with Socrates? Does he have any advice on how to be a good person? What's the meaning of life? Is there such a thing as free will? These are great questions, and all of them were asked by Socrates during his lifetime. He was born in Athens around 470 BC and lived until 399 BC. He fought in the Battle of Pat against Sparta and later served in the Athenian army as a soldier and as a leader. But his military career was marked by tragedy after losing his friend and comrade in arms. Socrates was never the same again. Many believe that this experience caused him to retire from public life and dedicate himself to philosophy. Socrates' philosophical journey began in Athens, where he walked around the agora, the central square of the city, discussing politics, arts, science, and ethics with anyone who wanted to engage in conversation. He believed that through dialogue and debate, people could come closer to the truth. But Socrates did not just ask questions for the sake of questioning. He asked them because he believed that by answering them, people could improve their character and become better citizens. For example, when someone claimed to know something but actually didn't, Socrates would ask them questions that exposed their ignorance and led them to realize how little they knew. Or when someone thought they were being virtuous, Socrates would challenge them to define virtue and show how their understanding of it was incomplete or inconsistent. In this way, Socrates became known as the gadfly of Athens, annoying everyone and making them think. One day, Socrates met a young man named Plato, who became his student and recorded his teachings in his famous work called The Republic. There he tells the story of how Socrates was put on trial for impiety and corrupting the youth of Athens. Both charges were brought on by his students, who were jealous of the attention that he received from the public. They accused him of believing that he knew more than the experts, which was true, and of teaching these things to others, which was also true. However, they failed to mention that Socrates never wrote anything down. Everything he knew was stored inside his head, and when he spoke, it was always from memory. This made it difficult for people to understand his teachings, because he often used stories, metaphors, and examples to illustrate his points. But those who listened to him carefully understood that he was trying to teach them how to live a good life by being wise, courageous, temperate, and just. His method of teaching was called maiotic, which means to make small, and it consisted of asking questions, examining beliefs and arguments, and then drawing conclusions based on the answers that people gave. His goal was not to teach people what to think, but how to think for themselves. He wanted them to be able to defend their beliefs and opinions with reasons and evidence, and not just accept them blindly. Socrates believed that wisdom began with knowing that you know nothing. He said that the first step towards wisdom is to admit that you don't know anything. He said that the man who thinks he knows everything is really ignorant, because he doesn't know that he doesn't know anything, and that the person who realizes how much they don't know is actually very wise. This is why Socrates is considered the father of Western philosophy, because he shifted the focus from mythology and tradition to reason and logic. He made people question their assumptions and look for evidence and arguments to support their claims. He also made them see that they could improve themselves by learning from their mistakes and becoming better people by doing so. This is what makes Socrates relevant even today, because we still face the same problems and challenges that he faced. We still have to deal with our own ignorance and arrogance, our own vices and virtues, our own happiness and suffering, and we still need guidance on how to live a good life and how to make it worth living. This is why we study Socrates and try to apply his method to our own lives. So what should we take away from this episode? First, Socrates reminds us that wisdom begins with knowing that you know nothing. We should be humble and open-minded enough to admit that we do not know everything and that we can learn from others. Second, Socrates shows us that we can improve ourselves by learning from our mistakes and becoming better people by doing so. We shouldn't be afraid of making mistakes, but rather use them as opportunities to grow and change. Third, Socrates teaches us that we should question our assumptions and look for evidence and arguments to support our claims. We should not accept things blindly, but rather examine them carefully and critically. Fourth, Socrates reminds us that we can find answers to our questions by asking the right ones. We should not be satisfied with superficial or obvious answers, but dig deeper and explore the underlying issues and concepts. By doing so, we can gain a better understanding of ourselves and the world around us. These are some of the lessons that I learned from Socrates and that I hope you fellow scholars have learned too. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe for more content. Also remember that you can change your world by asking questions and seeking answers. Do you want to be afraid to challenge the status quo and question the things that you do not understand or that you think are wrong? You never know what you might discover or how you might change yourself and others. Now, before we part ways, let me tell you a bit more about my journey through ancient philosophy. After Socrates, his student Plato founded the Academy, one of the first institutions of higher learning in the Western world. He, too, had a great influence on how we think about the world and ourselves, and his ideas will be covered in the next episode of Philosophy in Minutes. After Plato came Aristotle, the most prolific writer on ancient philosophy whose work covered everything from physics to metaphysics. He was a true Renaissance man and a genius who shaped the course of human history. But our journey will not end there. We will also travel through the Stoics, Epicurus and his followers, the skeptics, and many more schools of thought that flourished in the ancient world. Our goal is to discover the wisdom and insights that these thinkers had and to apply them to our own lives. I am your host, a fellow scholar and a lifelong learner. I love philosophy and I love sharing it with others. I hope that you enjoy these short videos and that they make you think, reflect, and grow. If you want to support me and help me make more of these videos, you can do so through a like and subscribe. Thank you for watching and for joining me on this adventure through the world of ancient philosophy. Until next time, stay curious and keep asking questions.